Well, hello there, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today is Thursday, December 17th. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? Happy Thursday, bud. Happy early Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. You got all your shopping done? You ready? You got everything lined up for all the important people in your life, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, we got mailed some toys to the East Coast for my nieces and nephews, and got my mom a tray to drink wine on in the bathtub. So,
Yes. Send me the link to that. My mama probably into that too. I dig
and
that. Yeah, Kate, I just almost didn't want to say this because I was like, oh, I can't let the secret out or whatever. But like, my sons are 8 and 9. They're not on Facebook. They're not gonna be watching anything or whatever. So we have this like, sort of white trash above ground pool out here or whatever. But it's obviously cold as hell right now. So one of the presents for the boys is a warm pool, which actually means buying a heater,
mm,
a heater for the pool, which Katie did, and she needed some PVC pipes for the installation. And she went to pick that up today at Lowe's while I was here with the boys, and she sent me a picture. She takes a lot of pride in like doing that type of shit. Her meaning like somebody asked her, "Do you need help getting this in the car, ma'am?" She's gonna be like, "No," right? I'll take care of it. These big long ass PVC pipes. She put them in the back of the Jeep and got them to fit. Somehow she got them to fit all the way up through there, and then she went back in the driver's seat and sat down. And the windshield was not shattered but broken. She shoved them into the glass so hard that it got a little spider web action on the right side of the windshield there, and then also opened the box with the actual heat pump in it, and it came dented badly. So, like it arrived from the. So yeah, we're off to a great rollicking start over here. Very 2020, the shit that's going on
so,
with our Christmas shopping so far.
y'all's dynamic. When she does something like that, do you ever bring it up again, or you just have to like take it?
Yeah, no, I'm probably not. I mean, I told her like, not to worry about it or what. I mean, I'm pretty nice about that type of thing because I break shit a lot and fuck shit up a lot. And of course, she always goes in on me,
Yeah.
but still, I like to be the bigger person, Mark. No, I'm just, I just sympathize with her when shit like that happens. So I mean, yeah, I tried to calm her down, let her know everything was okay. But anyway, yeah, and about a week out, and Christmas just already going great over here. But I'm sure it'll be fun. So let's do this show. What do you think? With us as always, we got producer Matt Hildreth behind the scenes doing the things, and this is Evening Skews. Tonight, we get into all things COVID relief, both the actual vaccines that are currently rolling out and also the supposed congressional relief package that may come at some point. Who knows? I mean, I feel like I speak for a lot of us when I say at this point, I'll believe it when I see it. But we get the latest on that. Also, Joe Biden has made an historic appointment in selecting his cabinet secretaries. We'll talk about all that and more later on Evening Skews. But first of all, as always, we begin with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic. Tonight's Daily Dumbass is former Houston police captain Mark Aguirre, whose name I'm sure I just butchered, but I'm not too inclined to feel bad about it as it has just come out, spent the time leading up to the most recent presidential election trying to butcher the concept of American democracy. Why? Well, as typically is the case with their side of this particular issue, he did it for reasons that would be comically absurd if they weren't so disturbing at the same time. I'm doing a bad job of explaining it, so I'll just let the news explain it for you. Matt, show what this guy did.
2 weeks before the presidential election, prosecutors say Mark Anthony Aguirre drove an air conditioning repairman off the road and held him at gunpoint. The former Houston police captain suspected the repairman was the mastermind of a voter fraud conspiracy. Prosecutors allege Aguirre and a team of investigators worked for a group called Liberty Center for God and Country. The group tracked the repairman for 4 days, suspecting the man was carrying 750,000 fraudulent ballots in his work truck. Police say there were no ballots in the truck, just air conditioning repair parts and tools.
Oh man, I can't believe that all they found in that air conditioning repairman's work truck was just some bullshit air conditioning repair parts and tools, man. These guys, they're more on top of it than Mr. Aguirre expected them to be, I guess. Fuck. Okay, first of all, I know that sounds super crazy when you just hear that, and of course it is, but there's like more details that highlights the lunacy, right, Mark? It gets worse.
Oh yeah, for sure. First of all, the couple things that were in that story. They followed him for 4 days. This guy had no idea these guys were just following him around as he repaired air conditioners for 4 days, and apparently never figured out that he wasn't up to anything.
Also, if it's not clear to people just from listening to what we've shown so far, I said former Houston police captain. He is, but I don't want people to think that is because of this happening. He was already, he was already long since a former police captain. Like, that was way in the past when all this shit started, just so everybody knows.
He got fired for apparently in 2003. There was some Houston police did some big fuck up where they arrested 270 people at a Kmart, somewhat tangentially related to street racing, and it involved a bunch of lawsuits. So he lost his job in 2003 related to that. And since then, he's apparently been doing side gigs like this, where he got paid $211,000 by this place called the Liberty Center for God and Country, which is such a these places, they always has a name for that. It's like the Freedom Headquarters for Jesus and Big Titty Blondes or whatever.
Right. Yes, it's like it's like a Trumper Mad Lib, the way they name their organizations. They just pick from I think it's the Freedom Center for Eagles and heterosex or whatever, like just you name it, that type of thing, for not abortion and the Lord. Yeah, that type of thing.
So so I got almost $250,000 from just the all around air conditioner repairman and invent schemes. So what they thought would happen, they thought this air conditioner repairman wasn't just like a guy driving ballots around. He was the mastermind of this scheme that involved basically. They thought the guy had 750,000 fraudulent mail ballots and was using Hispanic children to sign the ballots because children's fingerprints would not appear in any databases, right? He said Mark Zuckerberg had given $9.37 million for ballot harvesting, which is an incredibly specific made-up number, right?
Right. A made-up number. Like, we were talking about this, but like at someone in this chain of dumbasses, someone in it knows that they literally just made all of that shit you just said up out of thin air. The Mexican kids they got like a dipshit writer's room that puts this stuff together or something. It's like, the Mexican kids, they don't have fingerprints, and also the guy driving the van is the mastermind and all this stuff, and there's 900,000 of and it's all just completely made up, but then becomes the truth for this little shitty Steven Soderbergh group, like from Ocean's 11 movies or whatever, but for dumbasses. Like, why? I just can't wrap my brain around how something like that happens.
He basically ex-cop, traffic accident with somebody. If he'd known enough to keep his mouth shut about what was going on in his head, he probably could have played it off like, oh, this is a traffic dispute. I just wanted to make sure it didn't escalate, so I was holding him here till you got here and you could deflate this. And he probably wouldn't be facing any jail time. But instead, what he did was he told the cop about this fantastical conspiracy he was trying to stop and tried to get the cop on his side about it.
Yeah.
He told the cop that you can either be a hero or part of the problem. I just hope you're a patriot. Which, so he confessed. This guy's like former police captain who fell for the oldest trick in the book, which is cops just telling you they're your friend. They're just trying to help, right? And so he confessed. Yeah,
but I could see former police captains being even more inclined to believe that to be the truth. Do you know what I mean? Like, Thin Blue Line and all that shit. Even though he's not in it anymore, I could see them being even more inclined to believe that the cop is there to help them.
Yeah.
He also, the guy the news interviewed on camera the dude, the old white man who's in charge of that. What was it? The Freedom Center for God and Eagles or whatever that financed this. Yeah. Again, like you said, almost $250,000 they paid this guy for this caper fucking what? But the news interviewed the guy that runs that organization that paid for all this or whatever, and they asked him, "Do you believe that the Democrats have, stolen the election in Texas or defrauded the election in Texas?" And he was like, "Absolutely, I know they have." And it's like, y'all,
They won Texas.
I know what I'm saying. You won Texas. What are you? How is that even supposed to work? You think like if you can prove all the HVAC conspiracies here, that means that in the other states that the Democrats actually won, you'll get some kind of like trickle down justice or something. Like, y'all won Texas. What is this? What are they even talking about? Also, it was obviously the Texas Attorney General who filed that big lawsuit about trying to overturn the results in key states. Like Texas Republicans are just super fired up about an election that they covered on the home front.
Yeah, and this guy wasn't out some wingnut all alone. That Liberty Center place was the chairman was led by the County Republican Party chairman. A big-time conservative activist in Houston named Stephen Holtz was the group CEO. Aguirre's allegations have shown up in a lot of these voter fraud lawsuits that Republicans have been filing. So they were using him as a source. So it's like a human centipede of snake eating its own bullshit. But I know he set up a GoFundMe too. Aguirre did. He'd raised like $500,000 before he got arrested. But it's still, they follow this guy around, this air conditioner repairman around for more than half a week. And all they saw him doing was repairing air conditioners. And when they saw that, they thought, this guy's good, man. This guy's good.
This guy's a pro. We got some honorable mentions for you. I would like to talk about the dick tattoo personally, because how often do we get to talk about dick tattoos on the show, Mark?
As often really.
I mean, yes, that's true. We could, but Representative-elect Lauren Boebert. Yeah, I should know it would have been like the dumbest version of how it would be pronounced. Boebert. Her husband apparently has a dick tattoo. How do we know? Well, he's got a fun thing he likes to do, just a fun little game he likes to play, is where he shows his dick to miners at a bowling alley, and not coal miners, like the other kind. Did I get that right, Mark?
Yeah. He was apparently what he did was he told the teenagers he had a tattoo. He did that pickup artist bit, the cheesy one where he's like, I got a dick with your name on it. Literally got that, and he owns it to his pants. So it's not clear whether he actually has a dick on his tattoo. It's kind of beside the point, because what he was doing was a very horny, perverted comedy bit.
I know what you meant, but you just said it's not clear if he actually had a dick on his tattoo, which I bet he's got one of those too. Probably got a separate tattoo somewhere with like the Grim Reaper with his dick out with a Confederate flag wrapped around his skull or something. But no, I can't believe that the husband of the, insane conspiracy theorist lady is not on the up and up exactly. Also, if you've seen a picture of the guy, he looks like what you would expect the bowling alley dick tattoo guy to look like, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a QAnon lady, if you guys don't know. It's just like they got at least two of them in Congress now. Fun.
Yep. Let's see what else. This one's on our side, this honorable mention, but we try to be equitable.
It's just a fun little gaff. It's a fun
we try to be fair. Yes, Joe Biden, the gaffes have not stopped since he was elected president. Of course they haven't. Why would? That's what he does, man. He makes gaffes like, somewhat troubling, but mostly just, sensible chuckle-inducing gaffes. That's at least how I interpret it. Joe Biden referred to Chasten Buttigieg, and y'all know I am with pronouncing stuff, but Chasten Buttigieg. Joe Biden referred to Chasten as Kristen in a recent speech when he was talking about Pete's nomination to the cabinet, and of course, it's like this is just he had a problem with the teleprompter or whatever. He was trying to say, it's not like there's nothing actually shitty going on here. It's just, often his words don't be
No,
the
it's
way he wants his words to be. You know, that's all it is.
he does supposedly have a stuttering problem that comes every now and then.
Yeah.
But this is more of a the only thing that makes this funny is him being an old, out of touch man and Pete and Jason being gay. Right. It's like
Yes. Right. Yes. I mean, that's true. Yeah, you're right. The only thing that makes it funny is, frankly, looking at it through a bit of a homophobic lens.
Yeah.
So, but Twitter did that before us. We're just covering the news here. It was a thing people pointed out.
No, I mean, wait a minute. Hold on. If there's homophobia here, it's Joe doing it.
Well, I know he wasn't doing it, but I'm saying I thought we were in agreement that it's like the only way to interpret it as
uncharitably.
Yeah, right. Is to interpret it that way because he used a girl's name, basically.
Yeah, like when Joe was growing up on the playground, you'd call somebody a Mary or a Nancy, right?
Right.
But it is, I mean, it's like the other day, like his gaffes, it's weird how on point his gaffes are. That's kind of proof that all the dementia stuff is pretty unfounded because his brain's still working because he's making these connections. They're just like they just come out wrong sometimes. Like the other day when he announced Stacey Abrams as the world's leading voter fraud expert when he met organizing, he just does that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, doesn't realize how things sound sometimes. All right, well, let's get into COVID stuff. What do you want to do first? Congress? What's the latest on Congress, Mark? Are they actually going to do shit? We've been talking about this for literally months. Now the government is on the verge of shutting down potentially because of it. What's the holdup here?
They're closer than they had been to passing a new round of relief because basically they're giving Nancy Pelosi is going to come down to the number that the Republicans want, which is about $1 trillion. So, but they still won't give them a few minor details that they want. So the government might shut down this weekend because they can't pass any sort of funding bill. But they still want the employee liability shields, right? Which is only a couple hundred lawsuits have been filed about COVID, but COVID's only been around 9 months. But who knows how bad employers would act if they had liability protections. But I don't know how to judge how big of a deal that would be or should be. But what they want to do now is they want to add in a clause that eliminates the Federal Reserve's ability to do emergency lending. So basically, they want to handicap the Biden administration before they take office, so they won't be able to keep responding to the economic crisis to put us all in a deep economic pain, so they can take the House back and send it back in 2022. What's
the rationale for the Democrat side to agree to something like that? Just the optics of like. The most important thing is getting the deal done, and that's why we would acquiesce yet again to shit like this. Do you know what I'm asking? Like, why play ball with that specific type of shit? Because like you said, it's clearly aimed at hamstringing Biden's incoming administration before it even starts. Like you said,
you could look at it a couple different ways. You could say that like if they care about their constituents, they do have a gun to their head because people are going to start losing houses if they don't get money.
Right. Yeah.
So the Republicans have that over them.
Right.
If you want to, that's probably part of it. Part of it's also naivete because they're probably thinking if they're the same Democratic Party that's been around for the last 20 years, they're thinking, well, we can give them this because when we need when the Fed needs emergency lending authority again, we'll just pass a bill giving it to them because they'll need it. Republicans do the right thing in a hypothetical future.
Right.
But obviously they're in good faith. They're just worried about the deficits right now. They want to make sure we keep control over the deficit.
Well, one thing both sides have already agreed on, a bailout of sorts for the super wealthy in this country, which thank God for that, because I've been so worried because, like, with unemployment being what it's been and the situation we're in right now, it's like, who's going to create the jobs, moving forward? Like, if we don't take care of our super billionaires with these relief packages, I'm just worried that there won't be any new jobs for people because that's where they come from, is those super rich people, right? So it's a good thing that they're taking care of them. Please explain what I'm talking about.
So they included a huge reauthorization of the payroll protection plan, which is fine. Probably, I mean, like I think half of the money went to 1% of companies last time around. It's very poorly administered, but the other 50% went to other people, so it's still managed to help some people. But what this do, what they're now they're giving people the loans. These big pass through companies like big law firms and big accounting firms. They'll give them the loans. The loans are forgivable. All that's not even the problem yet. The problem is they're also making the loans tax deductible. So you're going to give the person a loan. They're not going to have to repay it. Also, they can write it off to taxes like they did repay it. So that's going to cost $120 billion. So just way government's supposed to work. Yeah.
Right. And again, it's also just funny that like that type of thing is already mutually agreed upon, you know what I mean? Where what they're squabbling over is whether or not your employer can fuck you over the amount of money that an actual regular working person would receive. But, you know,
I mean, these are
sort of how it goes.
These are the big law firms they go to work for, when they all leave office. Or I mean, when you see these big law election cases, these are the firms that both sides hire. So they're giving tax breaks to political allies who also give them jobs and save their ass when they get in election trouble or get arrested for their own tax fraud, which happens a lot.
Yep. So also in COVID news, Moderna's vaccine has now been approved by the FDA. So we got 2 vaccines shipping out right now. Obviously that's a great thing overall, but there's been some bullshit about it. People debating, the efficacy of them. There's been some weird shit going on with Pfizer's vaccine where it's been cut. The numbers have been cut, or they've claimed they've been cut of the amount that they're giving out to certain states or something like that.
Back up for a half a second. Moderna's vaccine has been endorsed by an FDA advisory panel. It still has like 1 or 2 more steps before it gets rolled out.
Okay.
It was good news, and there'll be more vaccine soon. So yeah, logistically, states have been told to expect X number of vaccines. But then today, they got various reports. They were informed that like Washington was told that they were going to get 40% less vaccine than they've been told they were going to get. Illinois said shipments have been cut roughly in half. Florida, Ron DeSantis basically shrugged and said all shipments were on hold. He doesn't know. They don't know anything about when they're going to get more. But what's really funny about this is the government said that Pfizer hadn't come through with enough doses. Pfizer says, no, we have millions of doses. They're either sitting in a warehouse and we haven't been told where to send them, or we don't know where they are. So 40% to half to all the vaccine doses are somewhere in transit, and it's like when your package gets lost in the mail, I guess.
Right. Right. So it's like an infrastructure logistics problem is what is happening.
Or Jared Kushner sold it to Saudi Arabia. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, for the whole administration, you'd assume it was just like a miscommunication or a paperwork error, or something got lost in translation, or they overpromised and underdelivered. Here, it's like fell off the back of a truck, man. Who knows? I don't know where it went. Before we move on to the next, I wanted to shout out to Trey's home state governor. What's his name?
Bill Lee.
Bill Lee.
Which is just kind of Billy, but stretched out further. So it's Governor Billy we got there. Old Governor Billy back home in Tennessee. Yes, Bill Lee. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, let me tell you what this fucking coward did.
He's the worst.
Tennessee's first shipment of vaccine was only like 1,000 doses, right? They're going to get more in a couple days.
Yeah.
Instead of just picking what hospital to vaccinate first, just pick one with about 1,000 employees and just go vaccinate them. He was afraid to piss anybody off. So they're going to wait until there's more vaccine, enough to go around to start vaccinating people. It's basically like if you don't have enough gum for the whole class, you can't chew gum, is what he did. But when you're an elected official, you weren't drafted as governor, you asked for the fucking job, right? And the job when you're governing is to decide who gets resources. Sometimes it's arbitrary, but you wanted the job. Your job is to decide who lives and who dies, who gets healthcare and who doesn't. Do it, motherfucker. Do your job.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he's so shitty. I'm surprised he didn't just decide to give it to like pharmaceutical lobbyist in the state or something like that. Somebody at the highest level, because that's how shitty he is.
You have to win the SEC.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, let's please not get into that. So I want to ask you sort of not a philosophical question, but a broader question about this subject. Obviously, especially if you're from the South or just rural America at this point, big pharma, pretty major villain in recent years, and rightfully so, with the opioid epidemic and all that. They've actually been made to pay for it, literally, to some extent recently. Pfizer and the $8 billion fines and whatnot. With all of that, they've been demonized a lot, and again, rightfully so. Fuck big pharma. But I guess my question is, there's an op-ed in the New York Times about this, about how successful this would be on the PR front for big pharma, these vaccines coming out. Like, there's a hope, apparently, behind the scenes within big pharma, that this will be this big PR coup, that they'll have this heroic card that they can play and sort of get them back in everybody's good graces. And the op-ed in the Times was saying, that should not happen. But I'm wondering if you think that that's even on the table to begin with. Like, could you see it even swaying public opinion to that extent? Should it? How much should we, bow down before our saviors at big pharma for these vaccines coming out?
I mean, I don't think their popularity is going to improve as long as people are getting charged $99 and a vial.
Right.
And plus, we don't know the bill for the COVID vaccines haven't come due, and also they haven't been rolled out without I'm not worried about side effects, but there are going to be stories about side effects. There just are.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they're out of the woods quite yet. But to me, the thing is, the frustrating part about this is, this was a big public-private partnership with a bunch of people collaborating in a huge emergency where the federal government just promised unlimited funds to get this across the finish line, and we're fine with you making a big profit, just don't gouge us, right? And it worked. We could do that with any other problem in society. Green New Deal, curing cancer. To me, this proves that when America wants to do something, we can do it.
Yes, absolutely. It's just like with and again, it's been so long now, and they failed to do another one that it kind of dampens the impact of it. But with the first round of the stimulus checks and whatnot that came out, that went to everybody basically, right now, and so the whole argument for that type of thing isn't possible. It's ridiculous. Who would pay for it? How would that work? But whenever it's genuinely needed because of an emergency situation, it came together again, the first round, relatively quickly, and kind of just proved that it is possible. And then they fucked everything else up since then where that is concerned. But I agree with you. It just illustrates that this type of shit is possible within the confines of our bureaucracy in this country. It's just that, everything else gets in the way the rest of the time.
We put a dude on the moon in 1968 and brought him back. We have our military might is we have resources. We can fly a group of tanks to the other side of the world and keep them gassed up and troops fed. We have endless. We can do whatever we want. We just choose.
Yeah. We went from Kitty Hawk and the Wright brothers, and I just looked up the actual number, but the Wright brothers in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, the first, manned flight. We went from that to the fucking moon in 66 years, which is insane when you think about it. And then just kind of stopped with the whole space thing. But yeah, right. When people are willing to put money and resources and effort on a large scale into worthwhile endeavors, it's insane what we can accomplish. We just never are motivated to do so on the macro scale.
I want to be clear, like Germany had a heavy hand in creating this vaccine. I think it was 2 Turkish immigrants in Germany who had the idea for the rough draft of it. But America has that's human ingenuity. America has endless resources. We could supply the world fixing these problems. We just don't want to. Remember that there's a famous Spider-Man cartoon, comic book strip where he's fighting one of his villains is a scientist who turned himself into a pterodactyl, and the guy goes, Spider-Man goes, with this technology you could cure cancer, and the guy goes, but I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs, and that's America.
Yeah, ain't that just the way? All right, so we mentioned earlier some historic news as related to Joe Biden's still coming together cabinet. He has tabbed Representative Deb Haaland, 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 to lead the Department of the Interior. This is important and historic because Haaland will become the country's first indigenous cabinet secretary. She's a member of the Laguna Pueblo in New Mexico, and she will become our first Native American cabinet secretary. And the fact that it's the Interior specifically is also very relevant and poignant because the Interior is the agency that is the umbrella over everything related to Native American affairs and the tribes and their lands and reservations and all of that, and just American lands in general and drilling and that type of thing. So obviously it seems extremely long overdue to have an indigenous person be in charge of that particular agency. So good on them for that.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a cabinet, this is pretty much the cabinet department in charge of breaking all the treaties with the natives. So
right.
It's justice a long time coming, and it's also nice. I mean, it's not nice that it's just the one, but it's the one. She's a genuine leftist, who the only one in the cabinet so far. Yeah, which is nice. I prefer.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. Did I cut you off? What were you about to say? Something?
No. I mean, I'm trying to come up with a parallel of what it would mean. It'd be like if a Black Panther activist got put in charge of the FBI. That's not really a good comp either. It's just it's just cool. Like we invented this department to like oversee Native Americans, and then just
right had white people doing that for forever.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, like when it obviously. When it was, early in the goings on, that was very much by design. They were there the white people were there to fuck them over. So,
somebody had to be in charge of the like acquisition and distribution of smallpox blankets. Somebody had to do the dirty work.
Yes, exactly. All right, so only tangentially related, but it did also happen this week in the past couple of days. Hope it doesn't seem insensitive or anything, but it has to, in talking about Native American or indigenous affairs, the Cleveland Indians have announced that Chief Wahoo will be no more, and they will change their name following the example of the Washington football team. Once again, long time coming, especially when you consider Chief Wahoo, right? Like he being Chief Wahoo really kind of elevates the uncomfortable nature of the Cleveland baseball team's mascot situation, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, if they had these guys hang on for too long and won't relent, and they end up getting the worst case scenario for themselves. But like if they had just redrawn the logo, which you can quietly say it's for any reason in the world. You don't have to say it's for social justice reasons. Teams do logo redesigns all the time. You could have just drawn a different logo and probably kept the name Indians, and everybody would have been fine with it. Okay, I mean, I don't know if everybody being fine with it's not right, but the logo is definitely the worst part to me.
Right. Because I feel like anybody watching us doesn't need to have this illustrated, but still, it's one of those things where like if you Chief Chief Wahoo's always been the mascot, right? And he just is the mascot. The logo just looks like the way it looks, so you just learn not to think about stuff like that or take it for granted or whatnot. But when you really sit back and look at like what the parallel to that would be, then it illustrates how absurd it is. We've got a couple, at least one or two graphics, right, Matt? We throw up there of if they were the Cleveland Crackers. Look at that. See? Yeah. Although, honestly, I feel like there's plenty of crackers who'd be totally down with that just because of the dollar signs around it. You know what I mean?
That doesn't hurt my feelings at all. It doesn't, because I don't own a bow tie and I don't have any money. So I don't think that personally.
Yeah, but I've seen other ones out there where it's like, just to illustrate the point, people made equivalent Chief Wahoo graphics for like the New York Jews, and it's like a caricature of a Jew like the Nazis would have drawn on propaganda posters in the 40s, or San Francisco Chinaman, and it's again, World War II propaganda, except just for Asians back in the day, and it looks like that. And there really is little to no difference. There's no really defending the absurdity of that cartoonish logo. But that's not to say that people haven't done it, Mark. People have defended it extensively. Yeah. There was a video that went viral a couple seasons ago at the beginning of the year where a bunch of fucking fat white Cleveland idiots went down to a baseball game and were just yelling racial slurs and whatnot at some native protesters over the subject of the name. So obviously people care.
I mean, man, they could have got, like, it's like one of those, like, I could have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for, in a horror movie when somebody's hiding and they're going to get away from the bad guy or the monster or whatever, but then baby starts crying. This, like, they could have gotten away with this, right? They could have been like, it's, we don't mean disrespect, it's not racist. But then the fans show up with their faces painted red in headdresses.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's like, you're giving away the game here, man. I mean, it's just, I think the connection between this and the cabinet pick is like, there's not enough of them around to make much noise anymore because we've been so shitty to them.
Yeah.
It's like, it's sort of like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, yes, it's extremely fucked up, but true. Chris Rock had a line about that, and I think it Bigger and Blacker, and he's talking about which people are the most racist or whatever, or which peoples have had it the worst in this country or whatnot. And he says something like, and ain't nobody had it worse than Indians, but we never hear Indians talking about it because they're all dead, right? Like they don't even have got enough to fill out a parade in New York. Like you put a feather on a Puerto Rican's head and be like, that's not Pocahontas, that's Jennifer Lopez or something like that. Yeah. I'm quoting Chris Rock here. But anyway, yes, no, I mean,
outside of Oklahoma and certain parts of Arizona, you'll rarely see two natives in the same room.
Yeah. So I want to get on the subject of this. There's a Native organization, a nonprofit organization dedicated to fighting stereotypical Native representations in sports called Not Your Mascots. Mm-hmm. So you guys could check that out. Not Your Mascots on Twitter, fighting a good fight there. What were you about to say?
Oh, I was going to say something Matt taught us before he came on. I didn't know is that there's a movement of Native kids have sort of reclaimed the word Indian for themselves, but they spell it NDN. Like
yeah, I didn't. Right, I didn't know that either. Yeah, because I want to call people what they want to be called and not be a dickhead. Just generally speaking,
easiest thing to do in the world. Easiest thing to do in the world.
Right, but like, and so, I feel like I've read and heard conflicting things about the word Indian. I've like Indian versus Native American, or because another thing, Producer Matt is from South Dakota. He's a white guy from South Dakota, but he's grown up in areas with large Indian or indigenous populations. And he pointed out another thing I hadn't really thought about is like, even when you say Native American, that's also defining them by the sort of colonial context of, America and like they were here before America was called America by anybody, mm-hmm. Right? So even that is a little weird. And apparently the best thing to do, if you know the tribe, refer to the tribe by the tribe. But if you're speaking generally, again, I guess it kind of depends. But I like the Indian, NDN, the letters NDN, but pronounced Indian. Yeah, that's for me. Glad they landed on that.
It's amazing, like, these are fights at all. I mean, like, literally, we're having these disputes that people get really heated over and get a lot of feelings because, in 1692, one kind of stupid Italian dude didn't know how to read a map the right side up, right?
Yes.
He died. Christopher Columbus died thinking he'd found India. And because of that.
Right. Well, but Louis C.K. has that joke in one of his specials about how, like, we being white people have known that they were not Indians, like, from the subcontinent of India. We've known that for a really long, like, since not that long after we even found them, we knew, oh, that's actually not where we thought it was. So that would not be and just kept calling them that the whole time. The way Louis puts it is like, you got there, it's like, oh, you guys are Indians. Like, no, we're not. We're not. This isn't India. We're not Indians. Like, you're Indians. And we just called them that for hundreds of years.
That's not even because like only Christopher Columbus thought he found India.
Right.
He everyone else called it the New World because they knew it was a different place. So
it's just one dude. Even it's just because one guy thought that.
Dude convinced us to call them all Indians.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, once we decide to call people something, we kind of like to roll with that, Mark. Us white people, we don't like to have to call them something else other than what we wanted to call them. It's kind of a whole thing with our people.
I don't know if people fully like how like Christopher Columbus did not. People didn't think the world was flat in 1692. Sailors literally watched stuff come up over the horizon for a living. People knew the Earth was round. Christopher Columbus thought it was small. He thought it'd be a short trip. He almost got all his men killed. When he finally accidentally bumped into to Hispaniola or whatever, his men were all on the verge of killing him. But he found a place and just decided this place I found is India. Everyone else knew it wasn't true. It's just like I can't. We fight about honoring this guy who just absolutely sucks, and we just pick a new word, call him whatever they want to be called. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like in Columbus Day, which I got, it's not like really. It's not like Columbus Day is a huge deal for anybody on either side of the debate, but the fact it is a federal holiday, because I used to work for the federal government, we got off work that day, is just absurd. And also, it's one of those things, and Matt has put over here that a couple other states, including South Dakota, which was the first to do it, they celebrate Native American Day on Columbus Day. But, like, that's a thing. Who is fighting tooth and nail to keep Columbus Day as Columbus Day? Do you know what I mean? I mean, sure, I'm sure obviously somebody out there is doing it, but like who really gives a fuck about Christopher Columbus anymore? Like we can just get rid of that if we want to, Mark. He can go. It's fine. Like, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, people just dig their heels in. I mean, outside of Syl from The Sopranos, he got real mad about Columbus Day.
Right.
I understand it's a point of pride for some people, but it's like there are other Italian heroes. We got they got boxers.
Yeah. Boxers, Chef Boyardee. That's another one. Big Mario, huge hero in the Italian.
You got Rudy Giuliani.
Rudy Giuliani. Yes, Rudy Giuliani, Mario, Chef Boyardee.
Yes,
you guys have plenty of. What did we talk? Was it on the show that we were talking about? Well, I'm not out you right now if it wasn't on the show. You're talking about how fun it is to make fun of Italians, in your opinion. Like Italians are one of the funniest. Italians, one of the funnest groups to make fun of because you're still allowed to do it, and they're
it's like this is the last
emotional.
Because there's no like. I mean, I know that Italians were persecuted against when they were out in the United States, but there's no organized history of genocide or slavery or whatever. So it's like one group you can get away with a little bit of roasting,
Yeah, no, for sure. But I gotta say, I love what they've done with noodles and stuff. Like I shout out Italians. They're some of the hittingest. Fatting is to be done only because of Italians. They've contributed a whole lot to the fatting game, and I for one appreciate it.
The pastry, espresso, amazing.
Oh yeah, there you go. Look, Italians done a lot of awesome stuff, y'all. Of course you have.
That's the point.
Great.
You've done lots of untainted good stuff. You don't have to defend a genocidal rapist who was also bad at his job. He wasn't a good explorer. He didn't discover anything, at least not what he thought he did.
So I want to go, Matt. You can start throwing up comments up there whenever you want to. I wanted to ask another kind of broader question that we've sort of touched on before in recent weeks, but think about Georgia and what's going on in Georgia and everything and how that's going to turn out. And we'll know more about what I'm about to ask when that after the runoffs actually happen. But Trump, like we were talking about recently, he got a huge amount of votes. He got more votes than he did before, but he also lost by, a solid amount. And it's the thing that Van Jones cried about, the repudiation he wanted to see and that I wanted to see that we didn't see, right? And I've been telling myself that Trump was like our rock bottom as a country, and then that's what we needed to snap out of it and come back. That's what I was saying throughout his entire tenure that I hoped happened. Well, I'm just wondering how much of a force is Trump, not even just Donald Trump himself, but like Trumpism and what he represents? Is it going to continue to be this major force in American politics, or with the general election and now with Georgia coming, if they lose this one too, if they take a couple more L's, do you think they'll take the hint and and go on somewhere and sort of recalibrate, or are we stuck with this for a long time?
The new class of people that got elected, Trumpism isn't a political philosophy as much as it's an attitude. It's just saying fuck you to everybody and everything all the time.
Yes, right.
And that resonates with a lot of people, and it got a lot of people elected to Congress this time. Like you got Madison Cawthorn, Corey's Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and the Lauren Boebert lady we just talked about. The House always has crazy bomb throws, so maybe not, but they're so safely gerrymandered. As long as that attitudinal thing is like super powerful in their primaries, if it gets them through the primary, they're going to win the general. How far that carries them up the ladder, I don't know. I hope not far. I hope they're still trapped in the House for their whole career. But the thing about Trump has 40 years of TV experience.
Right.
He's good at the medium. He knows what works. And the rest of these guys are clumsy and they don't have that expertise. If like Pat Sajak were to run, and he's a huge Trump supporter. If he
I didn't know that. Well, goddamn.
Yeah. He's very right wing. I don't know if he used to tweet. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But like if one of those guys, if one of those guys, who's good on TV, who can look you in the eye, looks down straight at the barrel of a camera, and say something he does not believe at all, that he knows not to be true, that he knows is bad and damaging, just to win elections, like Trump can, because Trump does have that as a superpower, and not everybody can do that. Like most humans have shame and empathy.
Well, it's funny because I feel like you hear the opposite of what you just said get posited a lot, which is like, y'all just wait until the competent version of Donald Trump shows up, right? Like the next Donald Trump is going to be him, but smart. But I hear what you're saying, and I think it makes sense. That discounts the other side of what made him so popular to people, all that shit you just talked about. That's sort of like, I mean, he had his own certain type of competency that was very effective that I feel like is going to be pretty hard to emulate for most people, especially politicians, because most of them are very dry and boring and dull and everything. And I don't know.
But here's the thing: like he governed pretty, except for being so in need of praise and people kissing his ass that he appointed a tremendously incompetent cabinet. Except for that, he governed as a standard Republican. And like,
Adam R. Kornblut says, "Smart Mark, over under on Trump pardons."
1 million. I wouldn't put it past him to do something like, I mean, it'd be cool if he just blanket pardoned everyone who has a federal drug conviction. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. Yeah, like was it Jimmy Carter that did that? Draft dodgers, yeah.
That'd be a cool troll move. Like, oh, you think I'm racist? Because in his head, everyone in prison's black. So he'd be like, you think I'm racist? I'll pardon everybody.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I just what we were talking about with Allison on Tuesday, this idea of him pardoning himself or whatever, or attempting to. I'm still on the lookout for that. That and Joe Exotic. I still think Joe Exotic might be getting a pardon coming down the road. It just seems like it just seems like it would be appropriate if one of Trump's last things was pardoning that motherfucker. I feel like it would just fit.
Joe filed a lawsuit today. I didn't read the article, but I saw he filed a lawsuit because he's not getting closer to getting pardoned. He's best trying to sue himself into a pardon, which is really funny.
That's a bold strategy. Yeah. Suing the suingest president of all time. No, he's not suing him, but still, yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense from that perspective. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Trump, that's the language Trump speaks, is lawsuits. So go for it, Joe. Shoot your shot, man. Oh, let's see. Yeah, Beth McGinnis says, yes, pardon Joe Exotic, all caps. I can't tell if that's sincere or not, but we're going to act like it is. Michelle Miller said, saw your show Saturday night. Loved it and love you guys. Can't wait for the next one. Thank you so much, Michelle. Yes, we had a good time. Glad you liked it. Just actually, since you brought it up, I'm doing a separate show tomorrow night. It's not a well-read show. It's actually I'm very much an undercard on it. If you guys want to check it out, it's from a group called the Comedy Resistance, and it's meant to raise awareness and funds and whatnot for the Georgia runoffs. And we got Sarah Silverman, Zach Galifianakis, Patton Oswalt, Sarah Cooper, and me, and Fortune Feimster, and Dulce Sloan, my old friend. So, yeah, that's happening tomorrow night on Rush Ticks, too, at 5 p.m. Pacific. If you guys want to check that out, should be star-studded. I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I believe you can – it's a donation type thing, you know, because, again, it's just like raising money. So look into it. If you want to donate, you can, and everything goes towards – our efforts in Georgia, our being the left. So, yeah, tomorrow night, Comedy Resistance on Rush Ticks. Check that out if you want to. Let's see here. Tara Kilgore says that's a stellar lineup. You're right. I don't know what the hell I'm doing there, but I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate them having me. No, I mean, I do. It's a liberal thing centered around the state of Georgia. Who else you going to get? Mark? Me. You talking about the South and progressivism or whatever? I mean, who you gonna call, right? Usually some way other people. Somebody asked or many other people. Someone said apparently we're having some technical issues getting the comments to show up on the screen. Producer Matt just told us. Somebody said, "Is that on here?" So it's God damn it! I
got a thing. We apparently have a listener by the name of a viewer, watcher, someone from Skews Nation by the name of Josh Rogers, who just moved back from Brussels, and he wanted to let us know that. Remember, we talked about that politician from Hungary who got caught at the COVID rule violating all dude orgy, even though he's a very anti-gay.
Oh, yeah, like crawling out the window naked or whatever. Yeah.
Apparently, the people of Brussels have put a plaque up at the drain pipe he climbed down naked, and they refer to him as the Hungarian. So shout out to the people of Brussels.
Yeah. Yes, this is a good point. Here, Chris Barry says, I'm pretty sure Dan Crenshaw fancies himself the next guy to take up the Trumpian mantle. The Navy SEAL credentials and the eye patch will definitely work in his favor amongst the 45 cultists too. Trust and believe. Yes, I'm sure you guys know who he is, but yeah, if you haven't seen his like Georgia propaganda videos and his other propaganda, he's got a whole propaganda franchise, the extended propaganda universe of Dan Crenshaw. They are something else. He loves to jump out of planes. He lands like Iron Man style on the hood of some Antifa hippies van and blows the windshield up and shit. It is wild, man.
They imply he just like randomly does a random commando assault and two Antifa people just sitting in a car.
Yeah.
It's very wild. But yeah, I mean, it did look cool as shit when he jumped out the plane. I got to be honest.
No, dude, it's honestly like they are the dumbest things imaginable, but like they're not poorly done. I mean, they're not. Which, of course, you know, I mean, these people out here spending $250,000 having ex-police captains chase down HVAC repairmen in vans or whatever. Like, if they can give that guy that amount of money for that, they've got the money to pour into these like fake ass Avenger ads they're making. But I mean, yeah, you know, production value on them's not bad, I gotta say.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. He's definitely decent on TV. He's a very cynical operator, so he could maybe do it. I don't know. Well, we never had an eye patch president before. We know you have to be kind of tall, fairly virile usually, and have a full head of hair, which is why Joe got hair plugs. Right. I don't know if you got to have two eyes or not. You know, that's untested yet.
This, also, I was trying. So again, because some people were asking me about it to clarify or whatever. If they're the Comedy Resistance, okay. If you just Google that or go to thecomedyresistance.com, you will see what I'm talking about. The show tomorrow night, which is an internet show with all those comedians I named and me, happening tomorrow on Rush Ticks. So just, look up the Comedy Resistance and you'll find it if that's what you want to look into. So I wanted to say about that guy. Y'all know I had eye surgery a while back. That's why I was wearing the sunglasses and whatnot. prior to having the surgery, and I may have to have a small follow-up procedure. That's neither here nor there. We'll see how that goes. But if I didn't have that procedure and get that fixed, the only thing I could do to fix my issue, because I had double vision, that's why I had to have that, is wear an eye patch. Like, that's the only thing I could do. And there was a long period of time there where I was like, really thought I was going to end up in an eye patch. Like, for medical reasons, I was going to have to wear an eye patch for the rest of my life. And it's like, you want to tell yourself that could be cool, you know? Like, oh, no, I could pull that off. That'd be cool. That's cool. Eye patches are fucking cool. And it's like, this dude, in trying to be super, super cool with the eye patch, just pushes me even further in the other direction. You know what I mean? Like, you can't pull off an eye patch, man. It just can't be done because of, obviously, pirates and now motherfuckers like Dan Crenshaw. That's why I'm mad at him, hurting us potential eye patch Americans out here.
I got a question for you, Trey. When do you think you will get your dose of the vaccine?
I mean, I'll get it pretty much as soon as I can, but if you mean like when I think that'll be available, I mean, not for months, but I hope it's like, I don't know, April or May or something like that.
I took the New York Times, like where you live, what your health conditions are, age, stuff like that. See where you're in the pecking order, and I will be roughly around the 280 millionth person in America to get the vaccine.
Yeah, out of, what is it, like 380 million total people in the country or something like that?
Something. So
yeah.
pretty. It's like we're doing alphabetical order, and my name's like Yipowitz or something.
Well, but so what does that mean? But okay, but what does that mean timeline wise? If you are the 280 millionth person to get the COVID vaccine, as of right now, the way it looks, when will you get it? Did it cover that?
So I did. So I will be around the 8 millionth person in LA County when we have like 11 million people here or whatever it is. So, but so they'll done 500,000 doses by the end of December, and then start getting 250,000 doses a week. So 1 million a month. So if I'm 8 million, say a third of the people don't want to get it because they're scared or they're conspiracy theorists. I figure I would get it in like March.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, April, May, something like that. That's my like trying to be reasonable expectation is, neither too optimistic nor too pessimistic. I figure somewhere around Memorial Day probably. But yeah, who knows? But once again, we say it every episode now pretty much because typically it comes up. Get the goddamn vaccine if you can. If you can, get it as soon as possible. Please make it easier for everybody.
let's hope when the Moderna one's out and the other one, the third one or whatever, once they're all approved, they'll also be coming out the same rate. That'll triple the rate at which it gets done, and we're all vaccinated by March, April. You know, let's hope.
Yes, that would be wonderful because then I can get back out there on the road and come see y'all wherever you're at. You're in Idaho? I want to come to Idaho, man. I miss Idaho. Boise, fun town. Bing Crosby, big thing in Boise, Idaho, Mark. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm ready to get back there, ready to do it. So everybody get your goddamn vaccines so we can all have some fun. I'm not a super like, I don't give a fuck about going to the club and never have. I'm not a super like big groups of people guy, but I mean, I miss just humans, I guess. I miss going out. Like the NFL playoffs are about to start, and I was thinking last year the Titans had their little run, and me and you and some of our friends were watching all the playoff games at like sports bar every weekend. Like, I wish we could do that again, man. I miss it. So let's fucking knock this thing out, man. Ruby Laguna says Madonna ruined eye patches too. You're right, Ruby. She did. Yes. But the ultimate takeaway is they have been well and truly ruined for time immemorial. So out of the question for me, unfortunately.
Madonna also ruined a bunch of couches, I imagine, and the lives of a bunch of 20-year-old Latin men.
Yeah, and briefly, Guy Ritchie's career. He got it back together, though. All right. Well, that's about it for this episode. We appreciate it. Just so y'all know, we will be here next Tuesday. Of course we will. A week from tonight is Christmas Eve, and no, we're not going to do a show on Christmas Eve. I got kids. Y'all got families, stuff to do. But we will be here next episode, which is Tuesday, December 22nd. And, we're looking forward to it. We'll see y'all then.
Have a good one.
Yep. See you. Love you. Bye. Mm-hmm.